60% of the time, it works every time.
What's up, everybody? It's Thegoal60 here on Sunday. We're going to recap everything. I've got Toby joining me here this week, and we're going to recap what happened in Week 5 and kind of talk about everything in college football and talk about what's coming up in the future. We're moving into October, and we're going to get ahead of trying to see what we think is going to happen in college football throughout the month. So thanks for joining me, Toby, and I'll let you have the floor, man.
Well, it's the end of Week 5. It's coming up on us pretty quickly right here. October's right around the corner.
Yep.
Seasons are shifting. Maybe not where you're living, but at least we're getting a little bit of wind blowing where I'm at, and it's starting to feel like good old the meat of the football season right now.
Right.
But I'd like to maybe start off with maybe the Minnesota Rutgers game, if you want to.
The Michigan Rutgers?
Yeah, not Minnesota. The Michigan Rutgers game. That game was a blowout, my friend.
Yes, it was.
Man, Michigan, they had something to prove, and they had an opportunity, and they proved it. Rutgers have their heads between their legs right now.
Yes, they did.
It's just Michigan had to do something. It was either sink or swim, in my opinion, and they definitely kept their head above water. They didn't allow the Rutgers to do anything on offense. They were just pretty much a big defensive powerhouse, and they showed themselves yesterday by not allowing Rutgers to score anything.
Exactly. I was, if y'all watched the video from last week when Michael and I did our picks, this was one of the two times that me and him went against each other. He was completely right. I was kind of betting on the fact that I thought Michigan was going to hang it up. They didn't. They come out and played. If you look at the box score, man, they gave up. Rutgers only had 100 yards passing, 106 to be exact, and 46 yards rushing. That was it. 100. So pretty much 152 yards of total offense versus Michigan's 335 yards passing, 141 yards rushing. They killed them. They couldn't be stopped.
Yeah, they shared the rock around too. Michigan.
Oh yeah.
They utilized all their players, all the running backs, all the receivers. They just spread it around, and there was nobody that they were really pinpointing, which kind of just showed that they still have that under their belt. When they start playing some of these, these big teams in October, they got to keep this thing going. And
absolutely,
it was just a good game. It was a good game for them. I'm glad they were able to pull one out, and Harbaugh was able to still, show his ass a little bit.
Yeah, they did. They spread it around. They had 9 different rushers and had 8 different receivers touch the ball yesterday. And man, I missed out on a few of these because I almost went with Shea Patterson on a fantasy team on DraftKings, and I didn't. I finished in 11th place, and the top 10 paid out. So it got really close. But
that was a teaser for you, wasn't it? That wasn't, you weren't going against the spread. That was a teaser.
I tried teasing it, and it did knock it out. It knocked it out with the Minnesota play that I had, where they actually won the game outright, 38-31 against Purdue. But I had it. But I will say this before we go any further: if you were to have played every play, not in a teaser, just straight up that I had, and also that Michael had, I went 4-3. He went 6-2. He had a great week. In the 2 games that he missed, one was BYU, and it did kill that big teaser that he had. But the other was Purdue in that game, and he actually could have earlier in the week done something with that and actually had a winning line there in a teaser. But I, just want to throw that out there. Both of us finally had, the same week, had a winning record, and I'm hoping to continue to build on that and see where it goes. This season goes, the more data that I can put in my spreadsheet will help us. That's just a fact. It keeps getting better because you start getting more pinpointed on how teams are going to react in certain situations.
Right.
And like yesterday, if you looked at over-unders, I went, and I didn't even give out one because I've been kind of scared of them after I lost 3 of them right at the start of the season. If I had waited and not played them then, if I had played them yesterday, I went 17-6 on the over-unders throughout the Power 5. But then, so maybe that comes in. Maybe next week we start playing a few more over-unders. 13 and 11 against the spread on the games I gave out. So hopefully that's starting to get more, we're heading in the right direction there.
Yeah, we're finding it. Yeah.
Right. So that'll help out later on. Staying in the Big Ten, what about that Nebraska beatdown, man? Wow.
Yeah. I don't know. Vegas didn't see that coming, right?
I sure didn't. And I can tell you, everything that I've seen this week, there was some really sharp players that were putting money on Nebraska. And that line actually went from, I believe it opened up around 18 and actually closed the other night at 17. And it would have closed even further down, but there was so much public action on Ohio State that it kind of stalled it right there. Or otherwise, it may have been done around 15. There was so much sharp action coming on Nebraska. Everybody I seen was going Nebraska. And they just, for one, that game, Nebraska's been turning the ball over like crazy. And going into that game, first half, he threw 3 interceptions. So he kind of stuck to the trend there. And you can't beat a team like Ohio State throwing 3 interceptions in a half. You just can't.
No, you have to eliminate any weak areas like that, and that changes the tide of the game. Kind of like that Virginia game with the 5 turnovers, It's just these factors that you can't calculate just change the entire makeup of the game. And, so it's just things you can't really predict.
Let me read this stat off to you. Tell me what you think. 8 of 17 for 47 yards. 47. 0.8 yards average. And then 3 interceptions. Guess what that QBR is?
Oh, it's going to be sub-average.
Yeah. 3.3.4. I mean, wow. And from what I understand, QBR is ranked somewhere around 100. I think it's 110 actually is like the top score or something like that. I don't know exactly how they come up with it, but 3.4 is not it. You don't win a primetime game against a team who's in the top 5 with a 3.4 QBR. You just can't do it.
They're shooting themselves in the foot, with the turnovers. And come on, for 8 attempts, you gotta bring that average up. I mean, they're gonna have to go back to the drawing board a little bit on this and really assess where they're going. If this is some of the results they're going to deal with, playing good teams, so they should have a bounce back next week, maybe. But that coach is digging into them right now, man. And
he's got to. He's got to. Let's shift over to the ACC. I count Notre Dame as an ACC team. They have that contract where they have to play, I think it's 5 games a year against the ACC because their other sports outside of football are ACC. Football is the only independent sport at Notre Dame. So I count that as an ACC team. I put that in the ACC spreadsheet when I do my stats and everything. Yeah. I was on the wrong side of this one. I had Virginia, and honestly, it was looking good. Virginia was ahead at one point. And the problem is, in the third quarter, they find themselves down, and then all of a sudden they fumble the ball and let Notre Dame score a touchdown. And that put them up. I think at that point it became 28-17, and Virginia started just kind of feeling like they didn't have a shot. Otherwise, we'd have covered there. Yeah. We were 2.5 points from covering anyways.
The problem was they came out of the halftime with, I think, a little bit too much confidence. Because that second quarter, they ran with the second quarter. They had 14 points on the second quarter, and they were the only ones who scored. So I feel like they might have a little bit of a inflated ego coming into the third, and that's when that turnover happened and the downhill spiraling continued on. And Notre Dame pretty much ran the whole third quarter, and there was no looking back in the fourth because there just wasn't enough time in the game, in my opinion. So, that was a close game. But Virginia's 5 turnovers is one of the big highlights of the downfall of Virginia. And,
absolutely.
The turnovers, man.
Turnovers
this
kill you.
is not only allowing them to be on offense, but it's a knock on your confidence.
Yeah.
Anytime you get the ball away, I mean, that's your damn ball. You're not supposed to give that son of a bitch away. It's just a knock on your confidence. You have 3, 4, 5 turnovers. You are looking down and you're questioning where you're going and what's your problem here. Yep. And it's coming down to the foundation. Our coach, when we played Pee Wee football, would make the receivers and the running backs walk around with the damn football. And if we passed them in the hallway, our job was to try to knock that ball out of their damn hands. Yep. When they're going in between classes, this is fundamentals. Yeah. This is foundational shit here. And if you're dropping it or turning it over, you're going back to the beginning. So
yeah,
it was a good game. I think it was relatively even. It's just that
if you look at the stats, Virginia, Bryce Perkins threw the ball well. He had 2 interceptions, which killed us, but he also he was 30 of 43 for 334 yards. Now, that's a good day. That's a solid day. Even with 2 interceptions, that's a lot of yards. You look at the rushing offense, though, and Notre Dame, they don't allow any rushing against them. They just can't. They only gave up a net. Now, you got to take sacks out of this, which I don't agree with in college. They don't do this in pro football. In pro football, they don't count the sacks as a rushing attempt, and I wish they didn't in college. So if you take it out, they only gave up 31 yards. With the sacks, 4 yards. 4 yards. That's it.
And your stats didn't show that. Your stats didn't show. You were saying Virginia was going to take them in rushing, and they just stomped on them. And a lot of those were third down conversions. They were trying to break that with. I wish they would have passed a little bit more on third. Their third down attempts, Virginia was 4 for 14. So they just, on that last down, they weren't able to capitalize with those rushes. And that's another confidence knocker right there when you're not able to complete.